when the United States officially left Vietnam in 1973. North Vietnam invaded South Vietnam and declared it as one nation. A war that extended 20 years. And the student protests, the protests that occurred at various campuses had a major effect on American politics. And this is what Netanyahu fears with regard to protests that occur in university campuses, protests that occur on the streets. It does pressure politicians in the West. So the current war has, of course, ignited student protests in the United States of America. But there are also serious war crime charges. Now, those war crime charges were made against Yahya Sinwar, against Ismail Haniya, against Muhammad Daif. But we know that Yahya Sinwar has been martyred, Ismail Haniya has been martyred, both have been killed, and the IDF claims that Muhammad Daif has been killed, even though Hamas has denied this. So if those three have been killed according to the official stance of the IDF, the only people who remain are the Israeli establishment, what they refer to as Israelis, which includes Benjamin Netanyahu, it includes Gallant, and the entire war cabinet, the leadership of the IDF, that are implicated within the attempt to genocide, to kill, maim, and carry out all those war crimes that we have been witnessing for well over a year. And of course, what is referred to as the entity or Israel has many war crimes. Ever since its inception in 1948 and prior to its inception, there is a history of Zionists colluding with occupiers. Even in the early 1900s, you had Zionist spies carrying out espionage within that region. You had militias being formed, which was a prelude to what became known as the IDF later. So, what Donald Trump has said on record is he has urged what they refer to as Israel as finish the job and destroy Hamas. He has urged them to do that. Finish the job and destroy Hamas. But what does this actually mean? Now, some have said, like for instance, David Makovsky, director of the program on Arab-Israel relations. He is based at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. He states regarding this, he says, does finish the job mean you have a free hand to act in dealing with the remnants of Hamas? Or does finish the job mean the war has to come to an end now? That's part of the enigma here. So that is the confusing nature of Donald Trump. Now, where Donald Trump departs from Harris or Joe Biden is in the aspect that if we had Democrats in power, they would fund the military war machine of Israel, and Israel would carry out its crimes. The approach of Donald Trump is distinct. How is the approach distinct? It is distinct in the aspect that Donald Trump will declare something as being Israel when it is not Israel without carrying out the war crimes, even though it's a crime in itself to violate international law and declare land which does not belong to Israel as being Israel, like the Golan Heights, according to international law, or the West Bank, or annex different parts of Palestine to what they refer to as Israel, like declaring Jerusalem as being the capital of Israel, all of these things are illegal even according to international law. He does that without carrying out export of weapons that mass destroy. That is his past record. Will we be observing that with Donald Trump in the near future? It waits to be seen. Now, what happened with regard to Donald Trump's plan was what this article states is Trump also recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital, bolstering its claim over the disputed city, and Israel's annexation of the Golan Heights, captured from Syria in the 1967 Middle East War. He presented a peace plan. This is the main thing. He presented a peace plan with the Palestinians, which the Palestinians widely seen as favoring Israel. Settlement building in the Israeli occupied West Bank. So when he had a peace plan, the actual peace plan was that the Israelis build settlements within the West Bank, which is known as Ad-Dafatul Gharbiyah, seen as an obstacle to Palestinian statehood. So during that time, what they state is that settlement buildings surged during the reign of Donald Trump. So the previous reign of Donald Trump, the number of so-called Israeli settlements increased in the West Bank. So what is officially recognized as Palestinian land, there was an increase of Jewish settlements in that region. And then, of course, we do know also that Netanyahu and Donald Trump in the past have had fallings out. For instance, in 2020, when Joe Biden was voted as President of the United States of America, Netanyahu congratulated Joe Biden, and they had a falling out over this. But then recently, Netanyahu visited Donald Trump this year. And of course, the visit to Donald Trump was because Netanyahu expected Donald Trump to win the current election. And that is why he's hopeful that he will make a better ally for the occupying forces, a better ally for Netanyahu than Joe Biden. Now, remember what they refer to as the far right within Israel. In reality, there is no far right. They are all far right, meaning there's no right or left in. Anyone who recognizes Israel is at the far right of the spectrum already. But many of the Israelis, the Jews, have been critical with regard to slow weapon delivery for Israel of Joe Biden, even though Israel, what is referred to as Israel, has been carrying out extensive war crimes within Gaza and the West Bank and elsewhere within occupied Palestine as well as Lebanon. They have been critical. What they are hopeful with Donald Trump is that he is more expedient in carrying out a genocide. This is what the Jewish state is hopeful for. And an Israeli ambassador known as Michael Oren, what he said to Washington was regarding Trump, he has the most pro-Israel record of any president. So this is a former Israeli ambassador. Regarding Trump, he has the most pro-Israel record of any president. The hope is here that there'll be more of the same. That is what they are hoping for. So when you have some of these Muslim clerics within the United States of America believing that Trump will put an end to war, What they do not realize is that actually Trump is the same, but not only the same, he will empower what is known as Israel further. But inshallah his plans will fail, like the plans of the Zionists will fail, because of course from the Qur'ani perspective, which is a subject for another time, we will cover Zionism from the perspective of the Qur'an. From the Qur'an and from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we know that their project will fail. One thing is very clear, that neither Netanyahu or Trump have a clear vision for post-war Gaza. They do not have a clear vision. So what is mentioned, for instance, with regard to Netanyahu. Netanyahu leads a far-right government whose key members have vowed to topple his rule if the war in Gaza ends with anything short of Hamas destruction. What else? They support resettling Gaza, resettling it, meaning they were occupying it, they still occupied in terms of surrounding Gaza from the sea and the land, but settling Jews in Gaza. And these far-right Jews are enthusiastic with regard to Trump's presidency. And now that Netanyahu has fired Gallant, and we will be going on to Gallant shortly after the Q&A. Now that Netanyahu has fired Gallant, they believe that they have more of an opportunity. So the firing of Gallant, disposal of Gallant, and then the voting in of Donald Trump. The grip of this far right on Netanyahu explains why Netanyahu has not spelled out a clear vision for post-war Gaza. Now, Trump, on the other hand, has not outlined a clear vision also. He has said loose statements like what, for instance, he said developers could make Gaza better than Monaco because the best location in the Middle East, the best water, the best everything. Statements like this, meaning settlements, Jewish Western style settlements. Now, this demonstrates that there is no vision, a real vision for a post-war Gaza. One Palestinian leader is known to have said, I don't see this as a president who is going to care about Palestinians. Now, the next vital question is, will Trump help defend Israel against Iran or choose America first? That is a vital question. That as we speak, there is a pending strike by Iran upon Israel. And I believe Iran should not target any Americans. Iran should not target any one of the Americans, whether that includes cabinet members of the government or American citizens. It undermines Iran's position. It only gives an excuse. But Iran will defend itself against Israeli aggression, what is referred to as Israeli aggression, or what is referred to as Israel. Iran will respond. When it responds, what stance, what posture will Donald Trump take with regard to Iran? We know that Netanyahu was against America's deals with Iran in the past with regard to nuclear sites, development of nuclear energy. Netanyahu was against that in the past. And currently, as we speak, there is the situation in Lebanon, and Donald Trump has a son-in-law who is also Lebanese. They claim 60,000 so-called Israelis have been displaced from what is referred to as Israel in the north. We should refer to it as occupied Palestine. That is the correct term for it, not Israel. 60,000 have been displaced. And nearly 500,000 of what are referred to as Israelis, Jewish people, have actually left occupied Palestine. And as we speak now, more than 3,000 people have died in Lebanon from Israeli terrorist attacks and aggression by the Jewish state. So the key question is, how will America and Donald Trump mediate in Lebanon, alongside with Gaza? These are important questions, and we should also remember that Donald Trump has a wide base support from Christian evangelicals. Christian evangelicals who are pro-Israel, misguided Christianity. Misguided Christianity. Why is it misguided? It goes against the teachings of Jesus, Isa alayhi salam. Isa alayhi salam was never a Zionist. Isa alayhi salam never instructed people in Zionism. It's a false notion. It's strange to the teachings of Isa alayhi salam. So, what I was mentioning with regard to, because someone has asked the question with regard to Iran attacking American citizens or any one of the cabinet members of the United States government, that is based upon accusations that Iran has hacked campaign associates, and also concerns about the potential to carry out violence against Trump or members of his administration. This is, of course, false propaganda spewed by anti-Iranian sentiments within the Zionist lobby in the United States of America. But remember also that the United States has sent military assets to the region to help Israel to thwart missile attacks. So 2 missile attacks have been done to date, and there are also US soldiers in what is referred to as Israel, and they are there to operate sophisticated defense systems. While Trump claims that he will be bringing troops back. So if troops are stationed within what they refer to as Israel, will Trump bring back those troops? I believe, in conclusion, I believe Trump will attempt to further empower what is referred to as Israel. He's a strong ally of the Zionist lobby. He claims to want to reduce inflation and tax. And many of the American working class whites, they actually believe he is against the oligarchy. This is false. If he was actually against the oligarchy that controls the finance, he would actually abolish riba, usury. He would abolish usury, which he will never do. He is a part of the oligarchy and entrenched with Zionism. Inshallah, we will take up some so there is questions we will take. The one question I have, someone is asking with regard to The Simpsons. They say, can you mention about people who watch The Simpsons and have said that Trump wins twice, and people claim Simpson purposefully predicts the future, a planned future. And if anyone can shed light on what else The Simpsons have indicated too. I would like to tell you that The Simpsons do not predict the future. What happens is that in these cartoons and movies, you have many predictions. So if you in a movie or a few movies, if you place 50 different predictions and one is projected to, meaning there's only a chance of one of two people becoming president. So they may have a clip of Kamala Harris becoming president and a clip of Trump becoming president. When Trump wins, people focus and display the Trump clip. They will ignore the Kamala Harris clip. So Matt Groening and The Simpsons do not predict the future. They have numerous clips within their cartoons or movies as well, different movies in which people will deem those clips as actually predicting the future. No one controls the future. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates the future. So these humans do not control the future.